the phenomenon, the pride of the Philippines.
Alex Eala. There's no way I could ever be that practical, that self-aware. I'm an even bigger admirer after having spoken with her. Huge supporter. Those remarks came from Andy Roddick, former world number one.
Hello, everyone.
You've been a gift to tennis, and you're pulling all of those fans with you.
The 2003 US Open champion, a man who has spent 43 years on this planet and decades in professional tennis, said those words about a 20-year-old from Manila who made him rethink what composure looks like under pressure. Alex Eala stepped into Roddick's podcast fresh off a 3-hour, 20-minute battle in Miami. She left having surprised a Grand Slam champion into a public admission. The Served with Andy Roddick episode dropped March 25, recorded during the Miami Open while Eala was still shaking off a tough round of 1-6 loss to Karolina Muchova.
As you know, all Filipinos are following every tournament that she's playing and now participation in Linz, Austria. So
she entered that conversation ranked 46th in the world, down from a career-high 29 she reached just 9 days earlier. This week, she makes her 2026 clay court debut at the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open. A tough draw. She's already in Linz, and the event is celebrating its 35th anniversary this year. Former Grand Slam champions could be waiting in the early rounds. It's the surface transition everyone has been watching. But what happened during that 30-minute interview changed the way one of the sport's sharpest minds talks about her future. The WTA Tour has a problem. Not a scandal, not a crisis, a gap. The gap between hype and substance, between young talent that generates headlines and young talent that can carry the weight of those headlines without breaking, between players who say the right things and players who understand why those things matter. Roddick sees it. He has watched rising stars crumble under the pressure of fame. He has seen national trailblazers fall under the burden of representing millions. He has interviewed enough players to recognize the difference between media training and genuine self-awareness. And then he sat down with Alex Eala. What followed was not an interview where a legend hyped a prospect. It was an interview where a legend openly admitted on his own platform that the 20-year-old across from him possessed something he never had at that age. Roddick opened his post-reaction segment with co-host John Wertheim by calling the conversation a lesson in self-awareness. Not impressive for her age, not promising, a lesson for him. I'm sitting here at 43 years old, having been in this tennis world for a long time, he said, and I'm thinking there's no way I could ever be that practical, that self-aware, especially in the middle of the fame storm and the responsibility that comes with that position. The fame storm, the responsibility. Roddick was not talking about handling press conferences or managing social media. He was talking about carrying the dreams of an entire nation while cameras follow every misstep. Eala is the first player from the Philippines to break into the WTA Top 100, the first to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, the first to break into the top 30. Every match she plays, 115 million Filipinos are watching. Every loss is analyzed. Every win becomes a national celebration. And according to the man who once carried American tennis on his shoulders, she handles that pressure with a level of composure he could not match in his prime. The evidence was right there in Miami. March 19th, a 3-hour, 20-minute marathon against Laura Siegemund. Down a set, she fought back, won a second-set tiebreak, and closed it in 3. The longest match of her professional career, and she walked off the court looking like she had just finished a practice session. 2 days later, straight sets over Magda Linette, 6-3, 7-6. Efficient, clinical, no drop-off after the emotional strain. Then Muchova delivered a reality check in the round of 16, 6-0, 6-2. The kind of loss that exposes every weakness. The kind of scoreline that makes you question whether you belong at this level. Eala took that loss on March 23rd. By March 25th, she was sitting across from Roddick discussing the mental side of the game with the kind of clarity that made a former world number one pause and reassess. Fans who have followed her rise saw something the mainstream missed. This was not luck. This was not a hot streak. This was a player who understood the assignment from day one. Roddick confirmed what you already knew. He called her a trailblazer for her country and then delivered the line that made tennis media explode. She is, what a gift she is to us. Not just to the Philippines, to all of us, to the sport, to everyone watching. I was fascinated before I spoke with her, Roddick continued. I'm an even bigger fan after talking to her. Huge fan. I can't say enough about what she's doing for the sport. Andy Roddick does not hand out praise like participation trophies. He won 32 ATP titles. He spent 13 weeks as world number one. He reached 4 Grand Slam finals and won one. He retired in 2012 and has spent the last decade building one of the most respected voices in tennis media, precisely because he refuses to hype players he does not believe in. When Roddick calls someone a gift to the sport, it is not promotional language. It is not podcast filler. It is a former champion putting his reputation behind a player's character. And he didn't just say it, he explained why. The self-awareness, the pragmatism, the ability to stay grounded in the middle of the fame storm without losing perspective. These are not skills you learn in media training. These are not traits you fake in a 30-minute podcast. Roddick has interviewed enough players to know the difference. He sat across from Eala and saw something the WTA desperately needs more of. A young star who understands that talent without maturity is just noise. This is not just about one player's path. This is about what the tour needs to sustain momentum in Asia, where tennis viewership is growing rapidly, but local stars capable of leading that growth remain rare. Eala is about to test whether her hardcourt success translates to clay. Linz this week, Stuttgart in 2 weeks, Madrid after that, Roland Garros waiting at the end of May. Tournament directors across Europe are paying attention, not because she is a feel-good story, but because she sells tickets. Because she brings Filipino fans to stadiums in cities that have never seen that kind of diaspora energy, because she gives the WTA something it has struggled to create naturally. A young, marketable, emotionally intelligent star who can handle the spotlight without falling apart under it. Roddick's endorsement accelerates that timeline. When a former Grand Slam champion publicly calls you a gift to the sport, sponsors start reaching out. Wild cards become easier to secure. The narrative shifts from promising prospect to future face of the tour. The stakes have now expanded beyond Manila, beyond Asia. Eala is now carrying expectations on a global level, and according to the man who just interviewed her, she is the rare 2-0-year-old built to handle it. The Muchova loss in Miami was not close. 6-0, 6-2 is the kind of scoreline that humbles even the most confident players. Eala faced the 13th seed and was outplayed in under an hour. No excuses, no public statements blaming fatigue or scheduling. She absorbed the loss, packed her bags, and moved forward. That is the pragmatism Roddick was talking about. Not the ability to avoid losses, but the ability to process them without losing sight of the bigger picture. The 3-hour, 2-0-minute battle, the Roddick admission, the gift to the sport. Andy Roddick didn't just praise Alex. He admitted she has something he never had. Self-awareness in the middle of the storm. Pragmatism under the weight of national expectation. The kind of maturity that cannot be taught, only recognized by those who understand it. The WTA Tour needed exactly this kind of player at exactly this moment, and she walked into Roddick's studio and proved she is already here. The clay swing begins this week in Linz. The question is not whether Eala can handle the pressure. Roddick already answered that. The question is whether the rest of the tour is ready for what comes next. Can Alex Eala translate her hardcourt dominance to clay, or will the surface expose the gaps Muchova revealed in Miami? This channel follows every step of the stories the mainstream is still trying to understand. Subscribe now. You are watching a player Roddick called a gift to the sport, and every match from here on is part of that story. The clay debut happens this week.